Hello everyone, myself is Dr. Avinash Amangi. I am from Gurudev Academy, Dharwad. So today we are going to discuss with the Neet biology, mainly mock test 4 related with respect to the botany part of it is. So we'll go ahead with a particularly question here, right? So majorly if you consider isogamous type of what sexual reproduction takes place in, isogamous of sexual reproduction takes place in with respect to the volvox, fucus or eudorinia and spirogyra, what they are asking, right? There are what the different types of what the particularly sexual reproduction what we have observed with respect to the what the algae, right? So there we have came across what anisogamous type of what the particularly gametes when it comes to the formation, then isogamous type of one, right? Then again even you are going to find out what the isogamous and even oogamous type, right? So like that of what the particularly different types of what based on the gamete only the sexual reproduction is going to take place with respect to the what the algae, right? So here anisogamous where what we are finding out one gamete will be a smaller and one will be a bigger in size, means structurally they are not similar. Isogamous we are going to find out what structurally similar type of what gamete, and oogamous where the smaller one is actually motile and the larger one you are going to find out what non-motile in nature. So that is what oogamous type. So here they are asking isogamous type of what sexual reproduction, that can be what seen up with respect to the what here the spirogyra, right? So it is seen with respect to the spirogyra, right? Then next question, that is select the option with respect to the cell which lack the what nucleus at maturity in the human and plants respectively, right? So it's a direct form of question. So mainly our erythrocytes, right? The mainly what we call it as the RBCs later which is going to get develop and get mature. So that will actually lack what the nucleus here, right? Which doesn't have what the nucleus. And even the particularly sieve tubes, right? Sieve tubes of the particularly plant cell, they also what particularly lack the what nucleus. So according to the what 92 question, that is what erythrocytes and the sieve tube is an particularly what answer over here, right? So erythrocytes when it comes to the what maturity during that period it lacks what nucleus. Like that only with respect to the what plant you consider sieve tube cells which are going to lack the word nucleus when it comes to the word maturity. So here option 1 is correct, right? Then identify the word placentation from the given diagram and give one example of what each over here, right? If you consider the particularly what ovary, what is actually placentation? Placentation is nothing but what arrangement of ovule within the what ovary, right? So whatever the diagrammatically I am seeing here, so these structures are what ovule and overall this is nothing but what the particularly ovary, right? So according to this particularly this is what exile type of what placentation. A is what here exile type of placentation and B is nothing but what here the basal type of placentation, and the C is nothing but what, that is nothing but the free central type of what placentation. Why I am calling it as free central? Because there is no any locules present within the what ovary. So directly ovules are arranged what at the particularly one type at the center itself. So based on that if I consider A is nothing but what here the particularly exile placentation, B is nothing but what the basal type of placentation, and C is nothing but what free central type of placentation. Based on that the lemon is an example, marigold and even the particularly dianthus, right? So that what you are going to find out. So according to this the particularly the option 2 is what correct, right? So diagrammatic based question it is, right? Then gene regulation in eukaryotic exerted at, right? So gene regulation in eukaryotic exerted at, according to that if you consider overally, that is the transcriptional level, the processing level and the translation level, right? So overall gene regulation in eukaryotic is exerted at what, all of these, right? With respect to the what, all of this only what we are going to find out. Where what is going to happen with respect to the transcription level, here the formation of what transcript is going to take place, right? So formation of what transcript is going to take place. Then later the processing level means this transcript itself is going to go under what modification. So here mainly what is going to happen, the regulation of splicing. Here what can occur over here in processing level, that is regulation of what, splicing procedure, where exons and introns are removed from each other and the coding sequence mainly like what exons are going to get joined. Then that is then like what, it will form a functional type of what, mRNA. Then it will undergo what, a translation level. So with respect to the translation level, what can happen with respect to the translation level, there will be a something called as what, protein formation, right? So whatever the information carried by mRNA, that is even going to get what, exerted. So here one answer is what, all of this, right? Then moving on to the next question, that is what, 95th question, right? So given below are the two statements, right, and based on that only we have to answer here, right? What statement one says, in some flowers the calyx and corolla are not distinct and are termed as what, perianth, right? Then statement 2, in compound leaves incisions of the lamina reach up to the what, midrib, breaking it into a number of what, the leaflets, right? In the light of above statements, choose the particularly most appropriate answer from the options given below. So according to that, if you consider here, both the statements are what, correct, right? Both the statements are correct, because what we know, when there is like what, there is no any differentiation as what, calyx and corolla, then definitely we term it as what, perianth, right? Then when it comes to the word, the compound leaves, where incision is going to incision of the particularly what, lamina reaches up to the what, midrib, and it breaking into the what, the number of what, leaflets, right? So such kind of arrangement you are going to find out with respect to the leaf. So here both the statement 1 and statement 2 are correct. So option 3 is correct here. Then sequence of the following event according to their occurrence in the particularly what, light reaction of photosynthesis. So the sequence of following event according to the what, their occurrence in the particularly light reaction of what, photosynthesis. So here if you consider, that is nothing but what, the particularly what they have mentioned, A is ATP synthesis, then water splitting, then electron transported to NADP, then excitation of electrons by light and release of what, oxygen, right? So majorly what will happen first, the sunlight which is going to come and fall onto what, the photosystems, right? Photosystem 1 or the particularly photosystem 2. Then what will happen, excitation of what, the particularly here what is going to happen, excitation of electrons by light is going to take place, right? Later with respect to that, what can happen, water splitting, right? Even water splitting should occur, that is what we call it as photolysis of water, that will be in the form of what, the H plus and 2 electrons, and again what, the particularly oxygen molecule, the release of what, oxygen molecule, what we are going to get is 2 protons and 2 electrons release can be seen with respect to the what, the photolysis of water. So here water splitting is going to take place. Then later what I am going to find out here, release of oxygen. After the particularly photolysis itself, what we can see is the release of oxygen, because these 2 protons and these 2 electrons are utilized. So these 2 electrons are going to enter inside what, PS2 system, and the 2 proton which will actually increases the proton gradient concentration inside the thylakoid lumen, right? So here then next what has happened here, the release of what, oxygen. Then I am going to find out what, ATP synthesis, as the proton event released here, right? So based on the proton gradient concentration, ATP formation is going to take place. That itself what we have called it as chemoosmotic hypothesis of what, ATP formation, right? So then later lastly what is going to occur, electron transported to what, NADP, right? So with respect to that, here if you consider, the option 2 is what, correct here, right? So first what occurred, the particularly excitation of electrons by light, then next what occurred, water splitting, then next what occurred, release of oxygen, then next what has happened, water ATP synthesis, and then lastly is what, electron transfer to NADP, right? So which the NADP which got what reduced over there, right? So then next question, that is what given below are the some statements, right? That is what A to D what they have given, right? So based on that, if you consider, that is here what they are mentioning, RNAi take place in all eukaryotes, right? RNAi take place in all eukaryotic organism, sorry, prokaryotic organism as a method of what cellular defense. This is one statement. Then the particularly a protein encoded by the gene CRY1AC and CRY2AB controls the particularly cotton bollworm, right? This is next statement. Then the source of what complementary RNA in RNAi could be from an infectious from the infection by viruses having RNA genomes, right? Then what, using retrovirus, the nematode specific genes were introduced into the what, tobacco plant, right? So based on that, choose the what incorrect statement from the what option given below, right? So according to this, if you consider, RNAi takes place in all prokaryotic organism, no, as a what cellular defense, it will takes place with respect to the what eukaryotic organism, right? So incorrect statement what we have to find out, it actually takes place with respect to the what eukaryotic organism. That itself is known as what cellular defense brought by means of what our cell itself, right? Then one more, that is what using retrovirus, the nematode specific gene were introduced into the tobacco plant. So using, you cannot use what for the plant retrovirus. What we should use here, instead of retrovirus, we should use Agrobacterium tumefaciens, right? Agrobacterium tumefaciens as an particularly the vector for what transferring a gene into the particularly plant. So based on that, the 94 is what the particular 97th question answer is what 4 here, right? That is A and D only, right? Then then based on that, the particularly find out the particularly correct option on the basis of what following diagram. So based on that, we have to find out what the particularly correct one, right? So they have given a structure of what chromosome, onto the chromosome there they have mentioned it as what A, and what it is nothing but what known to be the satellite, right? Then B, which is present with respect to the what, the sister chromatids, right? At the what center I am finding out, and that center is nothing but what centromere, right? Then whatever the C mentioned with respect to the what arm size, majorly what we call it as a long arm, and it is known to be what short arm here, right? Then below that sorry, below to that what I am finding out, the D is nothing but here the long arm, right? So based on that, diagrammatically what it is, the option 2 is correct, right? So simple question based on what the diagram what they have given, right? So we can identify based on the diagram itself the particularly correct answer what it is, right? Then what type of what pollination takes place in Welsineria, right? So what they are asking, so what type of pollination, so they have given some statements, we have to find out which one is actually suitable for Welsineria. Male flowers are carried passively by water current to female flower at a surface of what water, right? Then pollination occurs in okay, we were with the question, that is what type of what pollination takes place in what Welsineria plant. So first option what they have given is here with respect to this, if you consider male flower are carried passively by a water current to female flower at a surface of what water. Then pollination occur in submerged condition in water. Flowers emerge above the surface of water and pollination occur by insect. right? Then flowers emerge above the water surface and pollination is carried by wind. So as Welsineria is a water plant or a hydrophyte, what we usually call it as, here the insect pollination and wind pollination is not going to take place. But instead you consider the pollination occurs in submerged condition. This is also not correct. But the correct option is what? The male flower carried passively by water current to the female flower at the surface of what? Water, right? Mainly here what? The male gametes or pollen grains are going to come passively, and here the pollen grains are what? Long in length and even looks like what? Ribbon like structure, so that it can move towards what? The particularly a female flower. So female flower, what it will do, which is actually submerged with respect to the formation of a stalk, it will reach to the what? Surface of what? Water. Then actually pollination is going to take place, right? So option 1 is correct according to this actually, right? Then the particularly in C3 plant, when oxygen concentration is more, right? In C3 plant, when oxygen concentration is more, the oxygen binds to the what? Ribisco, right? And the RUBP get changed to, right? Then what we have to find out here, when mainly when there is a CO2 concentration is more, right? What you should remember, that CO2 and mainly like what? Oxygen, right? Both of them are can be what? Taken by means of what? Ribisco, and ribisco is highly sensitive to what? The oxygen. And when the concentration of oxygen is more, what they are saying, when concentration of oxygen is more, definitely what it can carry out, it can carry out majorly photorespiration, right? What it can carry out, the photorespiration. And this photorespiration usually takes place only with respect to the what? C3 plant, only with respect to the whom? The particularly C3 plant. Then what it can form, like what? Then the O2 binds to the ribisco and RUBP get changed to what they are asking, right? Here what they have mentioned, the two molecules of PGA, that is what? Phosphoglyceric acid, right? Then two molecules of phosphoglycerate, what they are saying, then two molecules of phosphoglycolate, one molecule of each of what? Phosphoglycerate and phosphoglycolate, right? Here majorly photorespiration is known to be the useless procedure, because here the proper carbon dioxide fixation is not going to take place, and there will not be any what? Organic compound formation, because there will be a formation of one molecule of phosphoglycerate and one molecule of what? Phosphoglycolate, right? Instead, to carry out, when there is a concentration of CO2 is more, during that period only what I am going to find out, the two molecules of what? Phosphoglycerate or phosphoglyceric acid is formed, right? But here what is forming, due to the more concentration of what? Oxygen, here it is undergoing what? Photorespiration, and this photorespiration phenomenon usually takes place with the C3 plant, not with respect to the what? The particularly C4 plants. So here what will happen, one molecule of each of phosphoglycerate will be formed, and one molecule of what? The particularly phosphoglycolate is generated, and which is an utter useless procedure, right? Then because why I am calling it as useless procedure, because there will not be any synthesis of what? Photosynthetic product, that is what? Organic compound called as glucose, right? Then given below are the two statements. Double standard, first statement says what? Double standard polynucleotide chain of a DNA have anti-parallel polarity, right? This is one statement. Statement 2 says in RNA every nucleotide residue has an additional OH group present at second position in the particularly ribose, right? So with respect to the what? Light of what? Above statement, choose the most appropriate answer given below, right? So with respect to this, both the statement 1 and 2 are correct, because with respect to the what? Pentose sugar of what? RNA, if you consider, there I am finding out at second position there will be a OH group, right? Because of that only what I am finding out, the molecular formula of this particularly pentose sugar is C5H10O5 with respect to the what? RNA. But in DNA at second position of carbon I am finding out C5H10 O4, right, where the one hydrogen molecule is one oxygen molecule is less over with respect to the what, the pentose sugar of what, a DNA, right? So only we called it as deoxyribose, and here we have called it as what, ribose sugar. So this statement is correct. And statement 1, double stranded polynucleotide chain of DNA have anti-parallel polarity. Yes, DNA will run from what, anti-parallel to each other, that is 5 dash to 3 dash, and then 3 dash to 5 dash, like that, 5 dash to 3 dash, like that of what, the particularly anti parallel polarity can be seen with respect to the double helical structure of what, the DNA here, right? So based on that, the both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct, right? Then telophase is characterized by all of the following except, right? So telophase is characterized by all of the following except, right? So majorly chromosome cluster at what, opposite spindle poles, identity of chromosome is lost as a distinct element, then nuclear envelope develops around the what, chromosome cluster at what, each pole, nucleolus, Golgi complex and endoplasmic reticulum disappears. So what they are asking here, telophase is characterized by all of the following except, that is nothing but what here, the particularly nucleolus, Golgi complex and endoplasmic reticulum disappears, they are saying. But at the stage of what, the telophase, you are going to find out reappearing of these particularly structures, right? Because that is actually a completion of what, the particularly cell division. So answer here is what, 4, right? Then identify label A and C in the what, given diagram respectively, right? So A, B, C, A to C what they are saying, and that what A, B, C what we have to actually label. So according to that, if you consider, that is the first one what they have mentioned, inner structure what they have mentioned, that is nothing but what here, sporogenous tissue, which is actually surrounded by a layer called as what, a tapetum, right? So A is what, the sporogenous tissue, then the surrounding layer, that is what, B, we called it as what, tapetum, and the outermost layer of this particularly microsporangium is called as what, the epidermis. So based on that, the particularly option 1 is correct. So diagrammatic based what question here, right? Then which bacteria help in the production of what, Swiss cheese, what they are asking. So with respect to that, if you consider majorly the bacterium that help in production of Swiss cheese, that is nothing but what, Propionibacteria cermani, right? That is nothing but what, option 1 is correct. So direct question, Swiss cheese is actually produced by means of Propionibacterium cermani is what, the particularly a correct option here, right? Then in Mendel's experiment, garden pea, round seed shape, that is what, RR, homozygous condition, was dominant over wrinkled seed, small r, right? Then that is what, recessive. Yellow seed color, YY, right, capital Y was dominant over green seed color, that is what, small y, right? Then what are the expected phenotype in F1 generation of the cross, right? They have mentioned cross, that is what, capital R, capital Y is crossed with small r, small y, right? So with respect to this, if you consider both the conditions are what, homozygous, then they are going to produce only one type of gamete, the capital R, then capital Y to capital Y, right? Then here with respect to this, small r and small y, and when these forms what, when this combines in F1 generation, when it forms a F1 hybrid, so during that period what will be the condition, heterozygous condition. But as according to the question itself what they have mentioned, the round is dominant over wrinkle, then definitely what I am going to get here, the round, right? As round is what, dominant over wrinkle, then yellow is dominant over green, what they have mentioned, then definitely I am going to find out what here, yellow. So here all the particularly like first option says what, all wrinkled green colored seeds, right? Then this is wrong. Then all wrinkled yellow colored seeds, this is wrong. then all round yellow colored seeds. This is what actually the correct. What I have got is round yellow colored seeds, right? So here option 3 is what correct, right? Then next question, that is nothing but 106. First one what they have mentioned, A mentioned as what the productivity of the ocean is greater than the land, right? Productivity of the ocean is greater than the what land they are saying. Then by the process of leaching, water soluble inorganic nutrient go down into the soil horizon and get precipitated as what unavailable salt, right? Then catabolism is a process in which the bacterial and fungal enzymes degrade detritus into the what simpler inorganic substances, right? Then the humus is further degraded by some microbes and releases inorganic nutrient occur by the process known as mineralization. So choose the what correct code here. So according to that, if you consider here, leaving the particularly what A, remaining all of them are B, C and D is what correct, right? Because the productivity of the ocean is greater than land they are saying. So productivity in ocean, who is the primary producers? The primary producers are what? Phytoplanktons. Then definitely the productivity, we will find out what inverted type of pyramid when it comes to the what the particularly ocean or water ecosystem or aquatic type of what ecosystem what we are going to call it as. So here the productivity of ocean will be the less than that particularly with respect to the what land. So here according to that, the particularly B, C and D only are what correct. That is what option 3 is correct. Then given below are the two statements, right? That is nothing but what endark and exarch are the terms often used for describing the position of what secondary xylem in the particularly plant body, right? Then statement 2 says exarch condition is the common feature of the particularly root system, right? Then in the light of the above statement, choose the what most appropriate answer here, right? So from the what option given below. So you have to find out what statement 1 and what with respect to the what 1, 2, 3, you have to find which one is correct or which one is incorrect type. So that what we have to look for here, right? So according to that, mainly endark and exarch type of what arrangement of what xylem, right? So that what I am going to find out over with respect to the primary xylem, not with respect to the what secondary xylem here. So according to that condition, if you consider the here statement 1 is incorrect but the statement 2 is correct, because statement 2 says exarch condition is the common feature of the particularly root system. So here that is statement 1 is incorrect and statement 2 is correct, right? Then next question, given below are the what two statements. That is what statement 1, auxin and cytokinins are antagonistic to what each other in the cause of what apical dominance. Then statement 2 says auxin is not a particularly plant growth regulator. In the light of the above statement, choose the what most appropriate answer from the what given below, right? So here if you find out both here what statement 1 is correct, that is auxin is antagonistic to whom? Cytokinin, right, which is related with respect to the what apical dominance. But auxin is not a plant growth regulator they are saying. Auxin is actually a plant growth regulator, right, with respect to the what apical meristem only, tip of the root and tip of the shoot. I am going to find out the what presence of auxin and which will initiate the particularly growth. So definitely here what this statement is wrong. So statement 2 is incorrect. So statement 1 is correct and statement 2 is what incorrect, right? Then next question, identify the what correct statement about the what diagram. So diagram based what we have to look for here. Majorly it is what the particularly floral diagram what they have mentioned. According to that, the flower of this family consists of what? A capitulum or a head what they are asking or what they are telling. Then the flower of this family consists of what? Free anther but fused filament. Then the flower of this family lacks what? The pappus. The flower of this family consists of gynoecium of what? Bilocular basal placentation. So based on that, the floral diagram actually depicts the particularly Compositae family, right? It is related to whom here? The particularly Compositae family, right? So Compositae family, and it is actually characterized by the flower that have the particularly capitulum, that have what actually the capitulum. So based on that only, if you consider here, the statement 1 is what actually correct with respect to the what this particularly diagram here, right? Then here match the particularly what columns, list 1 and list 2 what they have given. They have given what Agrobacterium, tumefaciens, cellulose, ribonucleases, then chitinases, right? And here what they have given, plant wall digestion. So these all are what digestive form what they are saying actually. So Agrobacterium tumefaciens, what it is? Either it is fungus wall cell wall digestion enzyme, no, it's a cloning vector. Then plant cell wall digesting enzyme, RNA digesting enzyme. Agrobacterium is known to be the what particularly a cloning vector, right? Then cellulase is nothing but what plant cell wall digesting. Then ribonucleases, which actually digest what RNA digesting enzyme, and chitinase is going to digest what the particularly fungus cell wall, because fungus cell is made up of what chitin, and the enzyme degrading is what chitinase. So according to that, what I am finding out here, A to 2, right? So A to 2 is with respect to the what only option 2, right? A to what 2 is there. Then you consider B what I have mentioned 3. Then C is nothing but what I have mentioned, C is 4, and the particularly D is nothing but what 1. According to that, the option 2 is what correct here, right? So moving on to the next question, that is what is true about the what BOD, right? BOD means what? You can call it as biological oxygen demand or biochemical oxygen demand, right? Biological oxygen demand sometimes they call, or even what biochemical oxygen demand, right? So biochemical oxygen demand, regarding to what it is, the BOD is directly proportional to the organic matter, right? BOD is inversely proportional to the what organic matter, right? Then according to that, if you consider here the BOD, here what they are mentioning, greater the BOD of wastewater, less its what aligned potential, and all of this. According to this, if you consider, BOD is the measure of the particularly organic matter present in a particularly what water, right? And the greater the BOD of a So BOD here, BOD is actually the directly proportional to the organic matter, because the definition of BOD itself will tell you what, it's a total organic matter present in particularly what water, right? Which is actually what, if the greater the BOD is, then definitely what highest pollinating what you are going to find out is the highest pollination with not pollination, the pollution with respect to the water what we are going to see here. So according to this, if that is the answer is what here, the particularly one here, that is BOD is directly proportional to the organic matter. Because of that only the name itself will tell you that biochemical oxygen demand, right? So based on that, next question, that is what 112th, what it is saying, how many true breeding pea plant varieties did Mendel selected as pairs, right, which were similar except in one character with the contrasting traits? So according to that, what I know is 7 pair of what contrasting characters he have chosen. So when he have chosen 7 pair of contrasting character, then definitely you consider each is what, one is dominant and one is what recessive. So 7 into 2 if it is, then definitely I am going to get what here, the 14 only, right? So 14 totally what the pea plant what actually Mendel has selected, right? Because he have chosen 7 pair of what contrasting character. So here match the column with respect to the least 1 and least 2, right? So we have to see which scientist performed what actually here, right? So according to that, if you consider here, mainly if you consider overallly, that is Gregor John Mendel. Gregor John Mendel, what he have done? Gregor John Mendel carried out, proposed the laws of what inheritance in living organism. So Gregor John Mendel is related with what? Proposed the laws of inheritance in living organism. Then Thomas Hunt Morgan. Thomas Hunt Morgan carried out what? Discovered the basis for the variations that the sexual reproduction produced by means of choosing something called as what? Drosophila melanogaster. Right. Then Walter Sutton and Bowery, Walter Sutton and Theodore Bowery carried out what? They noted the behavior of chromosome was parallel to the what? Behavior of gene. As the genes are present with respect to the whom? The chromosome itself, right? So that type of what characters what we are going to see here, right? Then the particularly Alfred Stewart went, he carried out what? The whatever the T.H. Morgan shown variation that that he mapped the gene with respect to the what position on the chromosome using what recombination frequencies. So based on this, answer is what here? The particularly 3, right? Then next question, what factors contribute the variations of a primary productivity among the what a different ecosystem, right? So there are what different factors what they have mentioned. So according to these particularly factors, if you consider, that is here A type of option A says what? Type of plant species present. Yes, this I can consider. Then climatic conditions, this even I can consider. Then there is what? Photosynthesis, photosynthetic capacity of the particularly plant, because productivity is required. Then next is required what? Animal species present. No, this is not required, which contributes what? Variability of what? Primary productivity, what they are asking. Then availability of what? Nutrition. So this is also what? Required. So based on the factors contributing for variability of what? The particularly primary productivity, then definitely these all are what required. That is type of what? Plant species present, then climatic conditions, photosynthetic capacity of the plant, and then availability of what? Nutrition. So based on that, option 1 is correct here, right? Then next question, that is what? The which of the following is correct about the what? Venation they are asking, right? Venation. So parallel venation is generally found in monocot, right? Then parallel venation is generally found in dicot. The reticulate venation is generally found in monocot. Then the reticulate venation is generally found in dicot. So choose the most appropriate answer from the what given below about what? The particularly venation. So here if you consider, that is nothing but what? A and D is only correct. Parallel venation is generally found in what? Monocot, and reticulate venation generally found out with respect to the dicot, right? So they have just alternately changed it, right? Then they have given what? The particular 2 statements, right? One is labeled as what? Assertion, and one more is what? The reason, right? Then here assertion says gas vacuoles are found in blue, green and purple and green photosynthetic bacteria. Then reason is gas vacuoles are not the part of what? Inclusion bodies, right? With respect to the what? Light of above statement, choose the what? Correct answer with respect to this. Then if you consider here, that is nothing but what? Here the A is true and R is what? Actually false, because inclusive body are meant for what? Reserve food material in particularly prokaryotic, right? So inclusion food bodies are related with respect to the what? The reserve food material found out with respect to the prokaryotic. So here option 1 is what? The correct. Then find the what? Incorrect statement in relation to the what? Glycolysis. In relation to the glycolysis, what we have to find out? Occurs in all organisms, then generates majorly right here 2 ATP from one glucose molecule, occur in mitochondria and cytoplasm, involves what? 2 substrate level phosphorylation. So find out incorrect statement. Yes, it glycolysis occurs in all the organisms, then it generates what? Net 2 ATP molecules. Overall if you consider, 4 ATP molecule can be generated. Inside that 2 of the ATP molecule are utilized in glycolysis procedure itself. So overall net gain of ATP will be what? 2. So this is what even correct. but occurs in mitochondria and cytoplasm. No, glycolysis occurs only with respect to the cytoplasm, not with what mitochondria. So the incorrect statement is here what? The option 3, right? Then involves what? 2 substrate level phosphorylation. Yes, that what I am going to find out, right? When there will be a conversion of what 1,3 bisphosphoglycerate to glycerate, there we are finding what the particularly substrate level phosphorylation, right? Then considering the following figure and identify the what correct phase of what M here. So diagrammatically, if you see what I am finding out, the particularly in a metaphase, I am finding out with respect to the centromere, 2 sister chromatids are attached. Now these 2 sister chromatids are going to get a divide, move towards what opposite poles, and that can be seen up with respect to the whom anaphase here, right? So here diagrammatically that is nothing but what anaphase. So option 2 is what correct, right? Then which of the following statement regarding the what post fertilization development in flowering plant is incorrect? Ovary develops into fruit, right? So this is what actually correct. Then zygote develops into embryo. Yes, this is even correct. Then the PEN undergoes successive nuclear division. Yes, PEN will undergo what successive nuclear division, because there will be a formation of what nuclear endosperm as well as what cellular type of what endosperm. Then ovules develop into embryo sac. No, ovules will develop into what here? The ovules actually develop into the particularly seed, not into the particularly embryo sac. So here the particularly this statement is wrong, right? So ovules develop into seed, not into the what embryo sac. But ovules inside part is what nucellus, that can develop what the embryo sac, but not actually the particular ovule later period, because later what they are asking regarding the post fertilization event they are asking. So inside the ovule, if I consider if this statement is correct, then it is related with respect to the correct with respect to the pre-fertilization event, not with respect to the post-fertilization event. So for the post-fertilization event, ovules will develop into what here? The seed, not with what embryo sac, right? So here this is what actually answer, because they asked what incorrect regarding something called as post-fertilization event here, right? Then next question, that is introduction of an alien DNA into the plant is carried by. So introduction of an alien DNA into the plant can be carried out by competent with bivalent ions, then using micro injection, using gene gun, and using what lysozyme and chitinase. Now according to this, if you consider, we can introduce alien DNA into the plant cells by means of what bombarding, and that majorly high velocity microparticles, gold particles, and that majorly we call it as gene gun method, right? That can be called as what gene gun method. Introduction of what directly the alien DNA into the plant is achieved by using what the gene gun method, right? So not with respect to the what micro injection or lysozyme and chitin can what degrade the bacterial cell wall, and it can degrade the fungi cell wall, right? And the bivalent ion, yes, it is made competent cell, but competent cell bivalent ion, what it can do, it can create a pore size with respect to the what cell, right? So that can be seen. So according to this, the third option is what correct, right? Then the relation between species richness and the area for a wide variety of taxa, right? Angiosperm plants, birds, bats, freshwater fishes, and turn out to be what I am going to find out here. The particularly it can be turned out to be what rectangular. It can be a turned out to be what rectangular parabola, rectangular hyperbola, straight line or linear or sigmoid. It can be turned as what the rectangular hyperbola, right? So which is actually geographically or the graphically represented by means of Alexander von Humboldt, right? So that can be seen rectangular hyperbola formation, right? Next question here, the majorly identify the role of what filiform apparatus that is found in ovule of the what flowering plant, right? So it guides the entry of what pollen tube into the synergids. It recognizes the suitable pollen that falls onto the what stigma. It produces what nectar, and it stimulates the division of what generative cell. So according to this, actually filiform apparatus we are going to find out with respect to the embryo sac. Inside the embryo sac, at the what microphyllary end, I am going to find out what egg apparatus. Egg apparatus consists of what egg cell, right? Following to that two synergids, right? So these are what two synergids. At the particularly synergids only, what we are finding out wall thickness, right? Towards the particularly microphyllary end, and that itself I can call it as what filiform apparatus. That itself can be called as what filiform apparatus. Now that filiform apparatus will actually guides the particularly entry of pollen tube into the synergids. It is going to guide what the particular pollen tube to get enter with respect to the what synergids, right? So that male gamete can reach the what female, right? Then match the column 1 and with the what column 2, list 1, list 2, right? Citric acid, cyclosporin, statin and bitric acid, what they have mentioned, right? So here according to this, what I know, citric acid can be formed by Aspergillus niger, right? So then if you consider Aspergillus niger, then cyclosporin can be formed by means of what a trichoderma polysporum, right? Then the particularly statin can be produced by means of what Monoscus purpurus, right? Then the butyric acid can be formed by means of what Clostridium bitrae, right? So here according to that, the option D, option 4 is what correct, right? Then the agar used in preparation of the what ice creams, jellies are obtained from, right? So mainly agar is you isolated from here the particularly what the rhodophyceae member, or we call it as the red algae, right? From there only this particularly agarose is isolated, and which is used with respect to the what ice cream and jellies that can be obtained by Gelidium and Gracilaria, right? Those are the what actually the rhodophyceae members, mainly what the red algae, right? So here the option 1 is what correct, right? Then the next question, that is nothing but what identify the correct statement regarding geitonogamy, right? So pollination is achieved within the same flower. This is incorrect. Geitonogamy is functionally a self-pollination. Yes, this can be correct, right? It does not involve pollinating agent. No, it involves the pollinating agent. So it is what incorrect, because with respect to the angiosperm, both the gametes, male or female gametes, they are non-motile, and to carry out the movement they require something called as what pollinators. And geitonogamy is a type of like pollination itself, right? Then genetically it is similar to autogamy, since the pollen grains come from the what same plant, right? So if you consider this statement is what even related with respect to the what majorly geitonogamy does not involve what pollinating agent, and here according to this the particularly the correct statement what I am going to find out is genetically they are similar to the autogamy, since the pollen grains come from the particularly what same plant, right? So geitonogamy is what one kind of what functionally self pollination, but according to this the particularly the correct statement I am going to find out, that is what the fourth one, right? So here fourth option is correct. Some vascular bundles are described as one because as open because these are not surrounded by pericycle, right? Then these are the surrounded by the particularly pericycle but no endodermis, are capable of what producing a secondary xylem and phloem, and possesses what conjugative tissue between the particularly xylem and phloem. Some vascular bundles are what described as what open because they are capable of what producing a secondary xylem as well as the particularly secondary phloem. So here option 3 is what correct here, right? Then statement 1 is given, the process of what copying the genetic information from one strand of the DNA into the what RNA is termed as what transcription. Then statement 2, A transcription unit in DNA is defined primarily by two regions in the particularly DNA. In the light of the above statement, choose the what most appropriate answer from the what option given below. Right. So according to that, if you consider here the statement 1 and statement 2, statement 1 is correct and statement 2 is what incorrect, because transcription unit in DNA is defined as primarily by the what two regions in the DNA, right? Only one region I am going to find out. So that is what we call it as origin of replication, right? Sorry, that is we are going to call it as the promoter region. So that what you are going to find out, right? And majorly there with respect to the structural only, I am going to find out the copying of the particularly mRNA or the transcript can be what formed here, right? So the statement 1 is correct and but the statement 2 is incorrect. Then identify the incorrect statement here. We have to identify incorrect statements, right? So here majorly if you consider with respect to the what such kind of things, what I am finding out, the majorly pollination by wind is more common amongst the particularly abiotic pollination, right? Wind pollination is rare in grasses. Pollination by water is quite rare in flowering plants and is limited to the what about 30 genera, mostly what monocotyledonous. Only a few flowering plants use a what range of what animals as pollinating agents, right? So according to this, what I have to find out is incorrect statement. Incorrect statement, that is nothing but what here the particularly B, that is wind pollination is rare in grass. There actually takes place what wind pollination itself. So this statement is incorrect. Then only few flowering plants uses a range of what animals as a pollinating agents. No, all almost uses what animal as a what pollinating agents. So here option what the particularly B and D is incorrect, right? Then select the word correct labeling for the particularly A, B from the word given diagram. So according to the word correct labeling, what I have to find out A and B related. So according to this, what I can find out is A, which is what showing the synthesis of DNA which is taking place towards the replication fork. I call it as what continuous synthesis, and the synthesis which is actually taking away from the particularly replication fork, I'll call it as what discontinuous synthesis. So according to that, if you consider here the particularly A1 is correct, right? Then given below are two statements. Law of what segregation is based on the fact that the alleles do not show any blending, right? Then a gamete receives only one of the what two factors during segregation. So with respect to the what above statements, choose what most appropriate answer, right? So according to this, if you consider both the statement 1 and statement 2 are correct, because during the gamete formation only the segregation is going to take place. Then again the law of what segregation is based on the fact that which do not show any kind of what blending or mixing of the particularly gene, because the genes are what independent of what each other, that what the particularly Mendel has told. Then which of the following statement is correct with respect to the what translation, right? Here amino acids are joined by a particularly peptide bond. Then ribosomes consist of what structural RNA, about 80 different proteins, right? Then you consider the cellular factory responsible for the synthesis of protein is the particularly ribosome. The presence of particularly catalyst could enhance the rate of what hydrogen bond formation. So choose the most appropriate answer with respect to the what option. Here if you consider, that is nothing but here the all except what D is correct, right? So the amino acids are joined by the peptide bond, yes, it is correct. The ribosomes consist of structural RNAs and about 80 different proteins, that is even correct. The cellular factory responsible for the synthesis of protein is ribosome. The presence of catalyst could enhance the rate of what hydrogen bond formation, that is not correct with respect to the what translation. Remaining like what here answer is all except D is correct, right? Then next question, in which of the following both pair have what correct combination, right? So both pair having what correct type of what combination, a direct form of question. Here what I am finding out, in situ conservation, that is what national park, ex situ conservation is what botanical garden. So here the option 3 is correct according to the what this particularly 132 question, right? Then identify A and B respectively in the what given below, right? With respect to the what diagram, if you consider, that is nothing but here the particularly A is nothing but here the central sheath, right? And the B is nothing but what radical spoke, right? So diagrammatically what we can observe and answer it, that is option 3 is correct over with respect to the what diagram. Then given below are the what two statements. One is labeled as what assertion A and R, reason R, right? So mutation is that arises due to the change in the what single base pair of a DNA is known as point mutation, right? Then reason is deletion and insertion of what one or two bases of DNA causes what frame shift mutation. In the light of the above statement, choose the what correct answer from the what option given below, right? So according to that, if you consider, that is nothing but here majorly both A and R are true, but R is not the actually correct explanation regarding the particularly assertion, right? So here option 4 is what correct related with respect to the what point mutation. Then the last question related with respect to the botany, that is nothing but what here mentioned, list 1 and list 2, meristematic, parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, right? And that is what based on that we have to actually match the particularly what the following here, right? So according to that, if you consider here what I am finding out, meristem is related with what the actively binding cells. Parenchyma is related with respect to the what photosynthesis and storage. Collenchyma is related with respect to the here mechanical support, right? And the particularly sclerenchyma is related with respect to the what sclerites. So even sclerenchyma provides mechanical support, but the correct match if you consider, that is what option 2 is what correct, right? So that's all about what the particularly botany part of this particularly mock test 4. So please do subscribe our channel and please do like and share. Thank you so much.